All right, that's 3 minutes. I'm just going to turn it over to you. I want to hear what you're noticing. I'm going to trust that there have been some experiences, some insights, some things you've been thinking about, and perhaps discussions with yourself and with her side. Just take it away. What are you feeling? What are you noticing in the last couple of weeks since we talked? What's different about your life? What's different about you? What's different about the way you see the world, if anything?
Yeah, I feel like specifically, I think recently, just because I've been put in like certain situations and like how I want to handle them has been a lot different. Um, I feel like this all kind of went back to like the boundaries situation. I feel like I've just been noticing that I've been setting a lot of boundaries, like one, just even within myself, like not even just with like other people or like things, situations. I've just been setting boundaries on myself on things that I do want to do, that I don't want to do, just like my own mental thoughts. It's kind of crazy because I feel like I've been in quite a few situations these past like week, I feel, that have just really opened my mind to see how like my mind has really changed. Like my perspective on things has really changed.
So can you give me a kind of this is a real world example and maybe even rewind the clock to, 6 weeks ago. So in this situation, this is how I would have responded. This is how I would have failed to put a boundary. This is what my normal pattern would have been, but this is what I did differently, and this is how I was able to do it differently. Can you give me that context? Can you kind of take me through that process?
Yeah, so for example, like this has kind of been just an ongoing thing that we've had going on where in my friendships at least, where I'm friends with two people, but they used to date each other. One of them is Gersai's friend, and then the other one is just my friend. And beforehand, Gersai's friend would say quite a few things about my friend. And it always made me feel really bad that I feel like I was just listening, but not doing anything, or like, hey, like this isn't nice, or like we shouldn't talk this way, or things like that. And I feel like recently I was put in a situation where the same thing happened again. Like this, one of Griselda's friends talked really badly about one of my friends once again. And I know this friend, my friend Taylor, that's her name, she's like in love with Gersai's friend, like in love, has been for years and years and years. And I feel like I used to feed into the like, I don't want to say her delusion, but her, like, I guess, like, want for him. Like, oh, yeah, he does like you. And, like, da da da. Like, I would feed her things that I knew that she wanted to hear in the name of, like, not, of me not having to have an uncomfortable conversation about how he truly feels, or, like, that she maybe, this isn't the right path. And it
Yeah.
was always to save, I feel like, to save me from having an uncomfortable conversation. Like I never wanted to have an uncomfortable conversation, but in turn, I feel like I was being a bad friend. And well, lately, I had a discussion with her, and I was like, honestly, this just has been sitting heavy on my heart. I don't think I'm doing right by you, and I don't feel right about it. So I did communicate with her, these conversations, and I was like, I just don't, whatever you want to do is whatever you want to do, and absolutely never any judgment, but I just can't keep sitting on the fact and being like a yes man in this,
Mhm.
and like feeding you things that you want to hear. Like I need you to hear the things that how it is. And beforehand, there was a lot of like Gersai would tell me like you can't tell other people because it's, you need to have loyalty to Gersai's friend. And I always felt so bad because I felt like I needed to have loyalty to Gersai's friend. And I feel like throughout this, I found that no, I don't need to have loyalty to one person or the other. I need to have loyalty to what's right and wrong in my eyes.
To the truth, to integrity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to
So
the
what I hear you saying is being impeccable with your word. And so you in the past, I'm bringing, of course, the four agreements concepts into this because I hear this playing out. I hear that it's no longer okay. Your inner guidance says it's no longer okay to just tell people what they want to hear, which is
yeah.
not in integrity. It's not the truth of your word. That's not what you really feel. And there's something I really firmly believe is that a lot of mental disorders and anxiety and depression and a lot of mental frustration comes from us not being in integrity with our own personal truth, our fear to speak our truth. And then we have this energy of truth that's trying to come out. We're suppressing it and we're pushing it down and we're afraid to let it out. And it kind of poisons us, quite frankly. That's kind of how I look at it. What's your take on that?
No, I do because I felt like I know for you, like when I talked to you about it, I know one of the big things, even before I did my session, was telling you how like I don't feel like a good person. Like I feel like I'm this fake person, like I'm not, like I'm a bad person. And I was realizing that by withholding this information, it was feeding into that feeling of fakeness, of being bad. And it was,
Yeah.
I literally was so hyper aware of that, of like how much my energy was so low because I just felt so bad about it. And it's like, I just realized like this is what's making me feel like I am a bad person, like I am a fake person. And maybe it's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's something I need to do to keep my energy safe and protected and to just protect how I feel. Because regardless of anyone's feelings, I was like, it was just affecting me way too much, like just
Right.
in
Okay.
the feeling.
So I love how you're bringing this forward. So now let's imagine that's just one instance. That's one relationship and one circumstance in that relationship. Now imagine if that compounded by lots of other relationships and lots of other things where you won't tell your truth. You won't stand for integrity. You won't, and it just builds and it builds and it builds to the point where you just feel miserable. Just imagine this feeling compounded times 100 or 1,000 in all these different circumstances. To me, that's what drives people to addiction, to alcohol, to hard drugs, to workaholism, because they have that feeling they don't want to face it. So I will do anything that I can to not face this lack of integrity and this ick that is inside of me. But when you feel it and you face it and you bring it forward, you're free of it. You're free. That's how I look at it. So I love that example. Give me something else that seems to be occurring for you right now, insights or awareness that kind of seems new to you, or that not necessarily new, but maybe has gone deeper over the last couple of weeks.
I feel like for one, I feel like nature has been a really huge one for me just recently. Like I feel very connected just within nature itself. And that's something that I've just continuously felt since the session. But just like outside, like even just sitting outside for 15 minutes, like in the sun, is something I've just been doing throughout the day. And it just makes me feel so good. And I feel like it literally, it's so crazy, but I feel like it recharges my battery.
I'm the
Like,
same way. I think it
yeah.
does. Yeah, and there's scientific evidence that shows that is the case. You know, you're absorbing vitamin D, you're absorbing these rays of light into your eyes, and they have proven that when you do that, you have better outcomes in your sleep and your stress, and also quite literally, we're like these solar beings. We need to go out there and we need to absorb the sun. I'm really glad that you're guided to do that. It's going to serve you very well. That's awesome. Cool. Anything else that comes up in that vein?
I would say my relationship with my sister. I feel like I have been speaking to her a lot more. I had actually a really long conversation with her. Um, I talked to her a little bit about my therapy and how it went in my session. And I opened up to her a lot, I feel. And I was able to process, I feel like, a lot of feelings. I feel like she was able to understand a couple of my feelings. And it's very like I think there's still a wound there. Like it still feels very raw. So I feel like anytime we talk us two about our emotions, it does feel very like scary and like it feels very uncomfortable because I feel like we
Sure.
don't have that relationship yet. But I think it's something that we are building towards. But it has also kind of made me reflect, we both grew up the same. We both grew up to a certain extent in the same household, but I feel like our experiences as children were very different. I feel like even though we lived in the same house, we experienced so many different things. So I think for her, I was kind of talking with her about, my situation with my mom and how I felt and my feelings and things like that. And I could tell that she was very just closed off. Like she wanted nothing to touch, like regarding any topic with my mom. And I feel like that's how I used to feel. Like I could, in that moment, I was very aware of it. Like I was like, oh, this is how I feel. Like I used to feel like that. I was very much like, I don't want to touch any touch like subject with my mom or my dad. Like I don't want to talk about it
Right.
because
Ignore
it
it,
was
deny, avoid,
so,
distract, keep going. Yeah. Yeah. It was so bad.
yeah, it was just so uncomfortable. And like I
Yeah.
think seeing her in that lens of her doing the things that I used to do, like I can realize now how much more different I've been. That I'm so much more open to having these conversations, especially with Gersai, just because I think beforehand, anytime we would touch those topics, like it was immediate breakdown, immediate crying, immediate just going back to my coping mechanisms of just crying to distract from the conversation so that I didn't have to touch it. And that's just something I just noticed. Like I felt to a certain extent that with Gersai, I was like, oh, maybe it's because he was in the session with me and he heard everything. So I still feel open with him. I'm not doing that anymore. But when I did it with my sister and I was able to talk about those things, it really did feel like I was making, or I felt like I've been making so much progress when it comes to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, clearly you're in a new place. You're able to talk about something that you would avoid and deny and distract, and yeah, so that's amazing. Was did you tell her about the I imagine you told her about the flight, like you chose to fly with me. What was her reaction to that?
She teared up a little bit because she was like, I do feel like that. Like, but it was really healing, to be honest, to have this conversation with her because I did tell her a little bit about how I feel like I abandoned her. Like I left her behind. And then that was something that she said that she didn't ever see it that way, that she never felt it that way, she never saw it that way, that she knew that I was building my life and she was just so happy for me. So it was kind of crazy for me that I carried this guilt for so long. And
Self-imposed.
yeah, that she was okay. She didn't see it that way. And I did tell her about like the flight and the birds and stuff, and that she said she does want to have like a closer relationship. She says it's kind of sad like how we me and her are very distant, but we're very close at the same time. Like it's like a weird dynamic that we always had where like we were there for each other but from afar. Like we gave each other a lot of space. And so yeah, I think it was pretty crazy just to hear a lot of those things from her. But she got really emotional, I think, when I was telling her all those things because she did say that she does wish she could spend more time with me. Like, and just, she's like, it never has to be anything serious. Like, we could just get lunch or something, but something, something that does talk at least.
Yeah. Did you sense a degree of vulnerability and transparency that you haven't experienced before? Was that there? Did she volunteer any new information about her life or about her maybe her dysfunctions?
I feel like I shared, but I feel like she's a little bit more closed off on that
She's not
aspect.
she's not ready.
No, because my sister has always been an like extreme, like it's to an extreme level of shyness. She will go into a room, and if there's a whole bunch of people in the room, she will immediately take a seat in the farthest corner and try to like completely hide. Like she doesn't say
Yep.
hi, very extremely shy. So I
Yep.
think with me, I feel like I'm one of the few people that I feel like she can open up a little bit more to, but obviously just not as much. But it is very much closed off because I was telling her, like, oh, I think I do want to have now that I've had this conversation with you, I think I really would love to have a conversation with my mom. And I would love to have a sit down because I've never ever had a sit down conversation with her ever, with my mom. Like we say things in passing, but it's never like, hey, this is like a sit down and talk about this. And I
Right.
told her that. And I remember
Superficial surface level. Yeah.
she was like, you can do that. And she's like, for yourself, but I promise you, you're not going to get anything out of it. So that was very much her stance on it. And I feel like that was my point of view beforehand as well. That I was very much
Right.
like, what's the point of having a conversation with her if nothing's gonna come out of it, you know? So it was kind of crazy just to be able to see my perspective, my perspective beforehand on her,
Right.
if that
Right.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Wearing the same energy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. Yeah. That is insightful. Yeah, it really is. Um, yeah, what you're describing is what the really shy, I would call that the wallflower persona. They're a wallflower. They want to be hidden. My wife Sandra like that for a long time, and there's a set of usual suspects to go along with what creates someone to be like that, and hoping that she becomes willing to start to look at that stuff and to figure out, why she feels she has to hide, why she's uncomfortable being around people. That's another conversation. Let's stick to you for for now. So let's go back to your intention to be a better person, to work through my trauma, so I can be a better partner for your spouse. Let's go back to reactivity and lashing out. Have you noticed any reactivity? Like, did you catch yourself being reactive over the last couple of weeks that you noticed that you can recall?
I think I'm trying to think of any moments. None that necessarily stand out, but I feel like the way I've reacted, I think I told you that because I was going on this like guys trip.
Yeah,
And yeah, he was leaving and how I didn't feel anxious or I didn't
or
feel
abandoned.
any
Yeah,
yeah, and that feeling sustained. That feeling sustained throughout the entire weekend. I felt really good. And I felt very secure. Like I felt like, oh, like he's having fun with his friends, And it was something that even when he got back that he noticed, he was like, I just want to tell you thank you. Like you didn't really like blow my phone up or call me like you
right.
usually do, like or
Yeah, yeah,
text me
yeah.
like crazy or get upset. And there
You
was
weren't
moments
needy.
yeah. So it wasn't like he was like, I'm actually really appreciative that you didn't do that. And it was so weird because I was like, I didn't even feel the need to. Like it wasn't something that I caught myself and was like, no, like it's okay. It was just I just didn't feel like I needed to. Like there was never that initial feeling and me trying to fix it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, let's go back. Let's go back, 6 weeks ago, and let's give an example. Okay, so last time this happened, I did blow up his phone, and this is what I was feeling. Can you connect to that? Was it, put that in your own words. What were you feeling that you feel like you needed to blow his phone up? You needed his attention. Do the best that you can to describe that.
Yeah, I think beforehand I would get anxious that he was having fun without me. Like that was for me the feeling. Like I felt like, oh, maybe he's having a better time with these other people and he's gonna prefer to do that. And then it snowballs in my head that he's in the future, he's gonna it literally it's so crazy because it's like these whole scenarios that I build up for one thing. Because I specifically remember like certain situations of this. Like I think the last time he took a trip, which was to Colorado with his friends. And I remember thinking, I'm like, he's gonna have a better time on this trip without me. And then he's not going to want to take trips with me because he would rather take trips with them. And then we're never going to take trips together. And it would
Uh-huh.
snowball into this whole thing of me feeling like I wouldn't be as funny as his friends or as cool as his friends, or he would just prefer the company of other people. And I think that
Right.
stemmed from just just me being so insecure, like within myself. Like I was so doubtful of like anything about myself. Like I didn't realize that I'm a funny person or anything like that. So I would make up those whole things. So then I would be trying to like contact him nonstop, um, to try to get his attention back on me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, what I hear in that is a story of self-love and self-acceptance. Whenever you're loving yourself and accepting yourself, you don't need him to convince you that you're lovable, and that you don't need him to convince you that you're great, because I already know that. I'm cool. That's kind of what
Yeah.
I hear, which is a powerful place to stand, especially in comparison to the way that it used to be. And it's so much more relaxing for him because he doesn't have to spend all his energy telling you, hey, it's okay, I love you, it's okay, you don't need to worry. Just imagine that. I mean, the freedom in that, he just knows he can trust. She knows that I love her. She knows she's good. And that gives so much freedom to both of you to just live your lives and to trust he loves me. I'm good. I'm great. I feel good on my own. I don't need him to tell me how great I am every moment. That's freedom to me. That's freedom and that's growth and that's emotional maturity. So kudos on that. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about that?
Um, I think I'm trying to think of any other moments that I felt like reactiveness. Oh, I think there was a moment actually, now that I'm thinking about it, where I needed to get some stuff for my mom. She had some stuff delivered to her house and I needed to get them. They were mine. So I remember like feeling so frustrated that I had to go over to her house and I was so annoyed and like I could tell I was answering to her short and just annoyed that I had to go over there anyway. And I remember I took a breath and I was like, it's not a big deal. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I know you don't want to do this right now, but it's not a big deal. She's probably really excited to see you because that's one thing I know about my mom is that she really gets excited to see me. So it's like there's like little things like for example, she came back from Mexico and she had some plates of mine that she brought from Mexico. And she was like, "Oh, like when are you gonna pick up your plates? Like, do you want to pick them up today? Do you want to pick them up tomorrow? Do you want to pick them up on Monday?" And it was already kind of like, "Ugh, oh my gosh, like let me be. Like I'll figure out when I want to pick them up, you know?" But it was kind of like I could understand that she was just excited. She wanted to see me. Or at least that's how I felt. I felt like she just really
Well,
wanted to
check
see
this.
me.
This is what's occurring to me. Okay, so check this out. This is just a thought. Just like you used to be with her side, you need her side to validate that you're lovable, that you're good, you're neat. Your mom might be doing that like right now. She needs you. She needs you and your company to say, "Hey, you're a good mom. I love you. You have value. You have worth. I do want to spend time with you. You're great." She might need that. I don't know, but that's just
Yeah,
what occurred
no,
to me
that's a really good point.
when listening to what you just said about yourself and her side. I see that she's mimicking that same behavior, or it's possible anyway. And that what
Yeah.
she wants your validation just to know, hey, okay, she does love me. I am important to her. That kind of thing.
No, I can 100% see that
Yeah,
within.
that's interesting. Yeah, yeah. So it's good that you noticed and you took a breath. So I kind of interrupted you. You took a breath and where'd you go from there?
Yeah, I just, I was like, let me give her some grace. Let me just, maybe she just wanted to see me. It's not that big of a deal. I think beforehand, I probably would have reacted very short and just like picked up the things and she wasn't there. Like, just been like, oh, like, when are you not gonna be there? And then I just go. But I think this time I was like, you know what? I think she does want to see me. I do want to be a better person. And I feel like making a little bit of time for her is important to me. I think I still feel it's such a like with that one, it is such a hard like pull feeling. Like there's that one side that it's like, I want to be close to you. I want you to like I feel bad not being close to you, but at the same time, it's like I'm doing this to protect myself because I know how you are. So then it's such a back and forth, like internal battle within myself of just like there's certain moments I do want to be there for her and be present and try to show up for her. And then there's other moments where I'm like, I want to get away completely. But I think this was one of those moments where I feel like she wanted to see me. And I feel like what you said was very true, that she did just want to feel like that she was important to me. So then I specifically made time when she was going to be there to go like see her and talk to her and things like that. But yeah, that was one of those moments I kind of just try to like breathe a little bit. I was like, okay, let's not
Yeah.
react how we usually do.
You're reminding me, I forget the author, but this is a really beautiful quote. Love is spelled Time. Love is spelled time. And so what I hear you saying is that your mom, her love language is your time and your attention.
Yeah.
And when you are at peace with yourself and you're feeling good and you're not flustered and you're not frustrated and you're not gassed out and burned out, then you have love and time to give. So I think
Yeah.
that's great. But I also think it's important to recognize when you are burnt out, when you haven't been doing the things that build your energy and build your vitality and build your joy, that it's really important. Hey, mom's a challenge. I probably need to invest in myself some energy a little bit before I go see her because if I
Yeah.
don't, I might create some drama unconsciously. Just something to be aware of. And as you grow and as this place that you found deepens, then you'll have more resilience and you have more capacity to be around her more and more and more without feeling emotionally hijacked. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I want to talk about just your 12-year-old self and your 18-year-old self. Have they come to mind over the last couple weeks? And if so, in what way? Have you stayed connected to those younger aspects of yourself? How have they shown up? Anything that you've noticed about them?
I really haven't noticed that they've come up, I feel at least. Like I feel like there is certain memories that I'll go back to.
Mhm.
like those memory, like just think a random flashback of memories that will pop up from that age. So like not them necessarily, but like it's almost like I remember from like the my own lens of what I was seeing, if that makes sense, like a quick flashback, and then
Right,
it'll
right,
just
right.
pop into in my head. But there's like certain little instances that have popped in. Like I remember like just random times, like I could be doing the smallest of things. Like I think I was cooking fajitas one time at home, and then I specifically like got like a flashback to the first time my mom was teaching me how to cook fajitas. And I remembered those moments and I remember how I felt in those moments. So like things like that have come up, but I wouldn't say like seeing them themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So give me a sense of when that memory arises, what kind of what kind of feeling does that memory have? Is it like you're I guess what I'm feeling is that I'm reclaiming a forgotten piece of maybe beauty, maybe I'm not really sure. I'm just trying to think when this comes up, what does it do for your what does it do for your heart? I guess is the best question. What does that do for your heart? Is it helping you to open more to your mom, you think? Why do you think that memory is coming up, that 12-year-old memory?
I think it has like a little bit of tenderness to it. Like it's like a sweet moment that I forgot about almost. And there it's a little bit of both, to be honest. There's some moments, like some flashbacks that I get that I'm like, oh, that was like a really sweet moment. And then there's other moments where like I think I remember one of the little flashbacks I had. I was literally in the car with Gersai and I remember I had put my AirPods in and then it brought me back to like this memory I had where my mom had picked me up from somewhere, and I remember I had my headphones in, and I was listening to music, and I guess she was talking to me, but I didn't hear because I had my headphones in, and then I had turned the music up louder, but genuinely not hearing once like that she was talking to me. And then I remember she slapped me across the face because she said, and then she took ripped my headphones off because that I had turned up the volume while she was talking to me to like try to drown out her voice. That's what she thought in her head was happening, but it was literally like never that, you know? So then
Yeah,
it was
power of
one of those,
assumption.
yeah, it was one of those where I thought, and I was like, wow, like I don't know, it makes me feel like now I see, I remember back then, like, obviously in the moment, I was like heightened emotion, like crying, angry, or whatever. But I see it now and I'm like, those are just dumb little moments where perception was like wrong.
Well, consider this is what's coming up for me is that consider these memories, little packets of call it resentment, little packets of sadness, little packets of whatever. And as we feel them and process them, it's like just a little packet of resentment that's gone. It says, okay, I have mercy and forgiveness and appreciation for my mom. I can understand, why she did that. I don't have to take it personally. And so maybe that's what you're going through is that little packet of resentment got blown up so in that memory. Just a suggestion. And then the memory of the fajitas, it's like a little packet of joy and beauty, just like this, you could release it and remember it and like fills you up, like you gazing at the sun, for whatever. It's like a little packet of joy and beauty that you remembered that's going to kind of reinforce you and make you more buoyant and make you more appreciative, a little packet of gratitude, maybe, and so I think that you're processing and you're accessing both the good stuff and the bad stuff, but it's coming up to be felt and understood and put in its proper place. Perhaps that maybe
Yeah.
that's what comes up for me in terms of those particular stories. Is there anything else that comes to mind significant like that?
No, I wouldn't say anything like big, significant on it.
Have you felt any areas of your body feel different, like your heart or your gut or your throat or your head? Have you noticed any different feelings in your body over the last couple of weeks?
I also feel like my chest. Like I feel like I just the thing that the energies that I felt even just from day one after my session, I still feel like I hold those, and I always hold those, I feel like, in my chest. So there's certain like energies or like vibrations. And I remember like
Mhm.
I feel so compelled to them like in my chest. And there's like certain like noises or certain music, and it just makes me want to go like that basically. Like I just feel it in my chest a lot.
Mhm. And it's a good feeling.
Yeah,
it's a
no,
warm, welcome, beautiful feeling. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Okay. I'm gonna say that, to me, I'm interpreting that as a heart opening sensation. That feel
Yeah.
right? That feel on target? Like, so your heart is more open than it was in the past.
Yeah. I
That's the
would say
way
that.
I interpret that. Okay. In terms of you being good to your body, are you noticing that you're doing anything different? Are you spending more time sleeping, more time exercising? You spend more time making better choices with your food, better choices in your environments? Give me some feedback as to what you see your behaviors doing, maybe a little differently than normal.
Yeah, I feel like with exercise I had always been pretty good with, and food
Mhm.
wise as well. Like I'd always been pretty good with food. But I have noticed, so for a while I did struggle, I feel like, with a very small eating disorder. And I feel like I used to just specifically not eat in the mornings. Like if Gersai wasn't home, I would not eat because, and I know sometimes he would take it as that, oh, it's because you don't eat because you want to eat right next to me. But sometimes I would kind of look forward to him almost like not coming home to eat because that meant that I didn't have to eat. And that was kind of like a process in my head. And I feel like I've just been a lot more gentle to myself. Like I'm like, like this is okay. Like I've literally caught myself saying that out loud, and I'm hungry, that I don't want to eat something right now, that I know I need to eat something because I haven't eaten anything all day. And I feel like I've just been more gentle about it. I feel I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's not a big deal. It's something healthy. You're going to eat some yogurt and it's going to be great. Like, it's fine. So I feel like I have been a lot more gentle to myself. And these, like, it's not like an everyday struggle thing. It's just like moments where I'm a little bit more hyper aware of my weight, or if I'm a little bit more bloated than usual on a certain day. Those are the days where that kind of happens, where I feel the need that I have to be more gentle with myself and talk myself through eating. Because for the most part, it's good. It's just random little days. But I have noticed that. I feel like I kind of tell myself, like, it's okay to eat. Like, I'm gentle with my body. Like, you need to nourish your body. Your body needs to eat. You can't focus because you haven't ate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the concept of food is medicine. If we choose the right food, it's medicine, it's energy, it's loving this body, and we can eat crap and poison our body, so,
Yeah.
but, so I have a question. What is your relationship to alcohol? What was your relationship to alcohol before this experience, and where are you now? Has there been any change in your relationship to alcohol?
I feel like there has been, because I would say after the session, I didn't drink alcohol for, I want to say, maybe until 2 weekends ago.
Okay.
So I hadn't drank at all, which was honestly very uncommon for me, because me and Gersai was very much like, we're very much social drinkers. So we'd be like every Friday, Saturday, we would go out and have a drink every Friday, Saturday, or sometimes throughout the week I would have a glass of wine. So it was definitely like, I would probably say I drank alcohol. I used to drink alcohol probably 2 to 3 times a week, if I'm being honest. And then I think I stopped completely, like just didn't drink 2 weeks before the session. And then I remember I just kind of kept that up until the last 2 weekends ago. And it was really mainly because I felt left out. I think we were all at like a night bar, so it was kind of like, oh, I need something to hold in my hand. But I feel like it has definitely changed, because obviously the people around me are still drinking as they normally would. And I feel like I see myself, I used to get a lot of anxiety the next day, even if I didn't drink a lot, even if it was just like 2 or 3 drinks, I would get so much anxiety the next day. And I was always aware of that. I was always aware that if I drank alcohol, I would get anxiety the next morning, but it wasn't enough for me to stop drinking to avoid that feeling. But I feel like now I'm more hyper aware of it, and I'm like, I feel great. Like I don't have to drink. And at first it was very weird for me, like to not drink. I was feeling like a little bit like, oh my gosh, like they're gonna think like something's up, or like they're gonna think I have like that I'm not drinking because I think I have a problem. Like I was a little insecure about it at first, but then I think now I'm like, no, like I don't feel like I need a drink. Like I feel like I'm good. Like I can have a great time and be dead sober, and it's great that I don't have this like anxious feeling the next day. Um, so I feel like it's kind of crazy for me because I have not I would say like my alcohol consumption is definitely like a lot less.
Okay, so like reduced by half, reduced by by a quarter. It's like, so let's say on an average week I'd have, 4 to 8 drinks a week, whatever it happens to be, and now I'm down to one or none. Where what would you say? In those terms, what would you say?
I would say honestly, like throughout having, I would probably have 4 to 5 drinks on a Friday night, 4 to 5 drinks on a Saturday night, one drink through of wine. Like that was beforehand. So I would say I would average about maybe 10 to 12 drinks like just throughout the week.
Yeah.
And I feel like now I literally drink either one drink or none at all. Because for example, because at first I was seeing it as a little bit of a like a scarier thing. Like I was almost like scared to drink and I wouldn't. And then now it's not like a scary thing. It's like, oh, I can have one drink and it's okay. So I don't know. It's a little weird
Check
how
in.
it's.
On terms of your energy, so what would you say is the biggest change in energy? So you say I don't have anxiety the next day, which that's an interesting statement. That's I don't think I've heard that a lot from most people. Normally it's like I have a hangover the next day and I feel like crap. But in terms of anxiety, that's a different one for me. I haven't heard that. But in terms of overall energy, here's where I felt my energy was kind of my essence, my patience, my irritability, my, whatever, however you want to quantify that versus where you are now. Can you compare and contrast those?
Yeah, like I just feel like I don't need alcohol to have fun. Like I feel like beforehand I saw it as like I needed to kind of give me like a confidence boost or to make me not so like anxious or not necessarily anxious, but to not make me so like shy and quiet. Like I felt like if when I was drinking alcohol, like I was a little funnier, like a lot more confident, I felt good, you know? And it's like I don't need that. I realized that I think within me that I don't need that as like a comfort to have fun with my friends and stuff like that.
I look at what you said about her Sai, about you're just comfortable being who you are. You don't need his constant, affirmations and constant attention. I look at this as kind of the same thing, is that you are comfortable being you. You don't need the numbness of alcohol, or you don't need the security blanket of alcohol in order to be comfortable. You're comfortable, I hear what you're saying, you're more comfortable in your own skin, and you don't need an external stimulus to make you feel more comfortable. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, I would say that 100%. I just don't, I feel like you put it in terms really good that it's just not a blanket, like not a blanket I need anymore to like help me feel better. Like I'm good and I have a great time. And I
No,
remember it
it's
was so
it's a
crazy because I told Grace that we had a really pretty, everybody drank a lot that night, except I didn't drink anything. But I remember I told Grace that the next day, I'm like, I had a really good night and I didn't drink anything. And he was like, yeah, like you don't have to drink to like have a good night. Like I don't know. I was just very hyper aware of that. I'm like, I had a really, really good night. I'm like, and
it's
I
a
didn't
different
drink.
paradigm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's a different consciousness. So kudos. Yeah. And just like putting on this blanket and then feeling anxiety the next day, that kind of sounds like self-sabotage and
Yeah.
self-abuse in a lot of ways. So kudos. I hope you're able to keep that up. So did you have any mental emotional struggles, any low spots, hard moments that you had trouble navigating over the last couple of weeks? Was there anything like that?
Um, I feel like I've been trying to I feel like naturally I'm a pretty positive person overall, or I try to be at least for like the people around me. And I feel like in my, like at work, um, I don't know how to so I think that there was just some comments made by my coworkers at work. And so I kind of took them a little negatively, but I tried to talk it out a little bit with Gersai and just write it down too and kind of just sit on it because like I've always just been very positive, like at work at least. Like I'm a very positive person. I try to cheer everybody up. things like that. And I think there was just a comment made that they're like, oh, something about me being too positive. Like I can't remember verbatim the words that they use, but they're like something about me being almost too positive. And I remember
Right,
I
like
took this,
like blowing sunshine up your ass or whatever. Oh, she's blowing sunshine up your
yeah.
ass again. Right, okay, yeah, that kind of thing. Okay, I got it.
So then I remember I took it so negatively and it like shut me down for the rest of the day. Like it completely shut me down. And I remember like, oh, I remember in my head, I was like, yeah, like I'm not gonna like be that anymore. Like I'm not gonna do that anymore, like or say this anymore, or try to do this. But then I was like, no, like there's nothing wrong with what I did.
Right.
Like
That's who
I
I
was,
am. Yeah,
yeah.
want to be me. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's that. It go back to that whole concept in the four agreements. What people say is not about you. It's them. It's a reflection of them. So whoever that poop head was, that was just a reflection of their attitude, their energy, their perspective. Had very little, if anything, to do with you. You know what I mean?
No,
If
and
you can
yeah.
look at it through that lens.
And I was very hyper aware of it afterwards because I sat on it. And I'm glad I kind of sat on it before like really like deep diving into it because I was really thinking, I'm like, is this a person where I should like take this so hard from? And I'm like, no, I know this person. This person talks negatively about our job all the time. Every day she talks negatively about it. So I know she's not happy current content in her position. So I think it was just very much deflection. So I just let it go. I was like, ah, it's okay. And then I continued to do as I normally do. But those was
Good,
one of
good for
those,
you.
yeah, that I was just kind of like, that's them, not me.
Yeah, I like it. Good. Well, I mean, when you know yourself, you can let that stuff go. So this is not me. So I'm having a thought right now, and I would love for you to compare and contrast. I want you to go back to your 4 years of therapy, your traditional therapy, your talk therapy, group therapy, all the therapy that you said you went through. I want you to look at any progress that was made there, and if there was progress made, own it. Hey, this is the progress that was made. I know it wasn't ideal for you, but I want to hear your feedback. This is what 4 years of that court mandated therapy did for me. And I want you to compare your last month to that 4 years worth of work. And I want you to compare and contrast what you've gotten out of the last month versus what you got out of the last 4 years. Put this in your own words to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I would say to me, it's very hard for me to see any progress, if I'm being honest, in the like 4 years that I did therapy, because I feel like I was in such a negative state of I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. So I think anything that they said or tried in any way to help me, I would just drop it as soon as the session was over because I wasn't willing to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it and they were forcing me to. And then the way they measured it was that if I can talk about it, then I'm good to go. So for me, if I'm being 100% honest, there's not a single thing that I can say that I genuinely took from those 4 years of therapy.
Okay,
Uh,
so let me ask you this. Did you want to talk about it but just could not? Did you want to but couldn't? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I feel like I wanted to. I obviously didn't want to feel the way I felt, but it was just something was holding me back. Something was holding me back. I didn't want to touch it. I knew it was going to be uncomfortable. And it was like a want, but like my body was literally saying no.
And
So
out of fear, out of the feeling, the emotions, like you were so afraid to talk about it, or just so embarrassed, or so what do you think? Put that in your best terms, to your best degree. Why would you refuse to talk about it? To your best, to explain that the best you can.
I feel like I felt a lot of guilt. Like that's
Okay.
the only thing that I can really say because I specifically remember, when everything happened with my dad. Um, and I remember I had to talk to like a detective and stuff like that. And they said, why didn't you scream? Why didn't you run away? And I remember that those words stuck with me for so long. For so long because I was like, why didn't I scream? Why didn't I run? I just cried, but I didn't like yell or jump or. So I
Right.
think those like I didn't obviously, they asked those things, but I don't think they realize the impact that those words can have. And so
Right.
I think I felt so much guilt. I felt so much guilt of letting that happen to me.
because I didn't scream, because I didn't do those things, I must have allowed this. This must be my fault, something of
Yeah.
that nature. Okay.
So then
Yeah.
for me, it was really guilty to even talk about it because it almost felt like if I talked about it, I was admitting that it was my fault. If I talked through it out. So it was just something I just never wanted to touch. And it was also just really scary to talk about it. Like it was always just a very terrifying thing. Like I knew the level of like bad that it was. So I just knew, I don't know, I think I was just very, very hyper aware of that. I'm very aware of like guilt. So I would say throughout those 4 years of therapy, I feel like I really didn't get anything out of it other than, or at least from what I can remember. Like, and I feel like in this past month, it's been so crazy to me how like that physical feeling that I would literally have when I was in therapy, when talking about the same topics, is completely different. Like I feel like I'm more open to talking about it without wanting to cry and run away and like not speak on things. So I feel like I'm more open to talking about it. Just like I can just say my dad for one without already like not feeling like I need to tear up. Like that was such a huge realization for me that I can say yes, my dad, like my dad sexually abused me. Like this is something he did. And it's not like immediately tears. It's not immediately like chest feeling that I can't breathe. Like it's immediate like panic attack. Like it's so crazy to me because back then it most definitely was. And I remember specifically like probably my second to three last sessions there, the last thing that they had me do was fully write it in a journal. What from detail to detail, like of what exactly happened to me. And I remember I remember they asked me like, do you want me to stay in the room? Would you prefer if I left the room? And I was like, I would prefer if you left the room. Because even writing it down, like with someone there to like was just too much for me. Like I couldn't even do that. It wasn't even just me saying it out loud. It was just even writing it down. Like I didn't want anybody around me to see me or, any of that. So it is pretty crazy to see like how much different my emotions are towards that specific topic.
Now, this is what I find interesting is that would you say that during your 5 hour session, you didn't talk about this? Agreed?
Yeah.
So how would you explain to somebody what happened in your session that allowed you to release this, or allowed you to get to this place you are now? What would you say to somebody?
I feel like I released him. Like I feel like even because like I think that first day after the session, I had told you that I felt like I wasn't strong enough to make him go away on his own, that I
Mhm.
needed like you and your side to like escort him out. And I remember I felt like a lot like I wasn't strong enough, like I was disappointed in myself. And I remember you said to, everybody needs help. Everybody needs family, people
Yeah,
around them.
we don't do anything on our own, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember I sat on that for a lot. And then it was just one of those things where it's like, I released him. Like I released him. And even though it wasn't necessarily me escorting him out, like he's escorted out. He's out. He's not this like looming figure of like scariness, like on like above me. Like it's just he's gone. Like he went through the door and he's gone.
Is it fair to say, so somebody listening to this conversation that's been through what you've been through and trying to help them understand what you're getting out of this, is it fair to say that so what you released is the energy that you had on him, the resentment that you had towards him. And when you released that, that was a deep, visceral, physical, vocal process of release. But that process that you went through, it wasn't talking about it, it wasn't reflecting on it, it was letting that physical feeling leave your body, letting that energy leave your body. And you had to let your nervous system just shake, and you had to vocalize, and you had to find a way to purge that energy of him. Is that a fair assessment? Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's 100% correct. I feel like I quite literally physically let that energy go. And I feel like I never realized how much, like how heavy it sat on me. Like I knew was sitting very extremely heavy on me, but never to a physical level that I experienced. Like it just felt so, like it just doesn't feel like a cloud anymore. Like it doesn't feel like this negative, like horrible thing of all that. But yeah, I would 100% agree with what you said.
Yeah. And so it's not that you had to talk through and relive the experience. You had to face the feeling that was in your body, which he represented. So I'll just describe it as in this visualization, in this visualization exercise, he appeared. And when he appeared, he brought all the emotions that were stored inside of you. And you had the opportunity to let them go and to let him go. And it all happened. And it happened more effectively than 4 years worth of what you've been through before. Is that as fair as
Yes,
things? Okay. Right.
100%.
That's pretty freaking powerful. And that's what I want to try and help other people understand with this work. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think you verbalized it 100%, like exactly how I was feeling or how I feel about this.
Well, and so what I'm saying is that now that you've let that energy go and he doesn't, and that energy and the meaning of him that was stored in your body, now that it's free, you actually have space to talk about it because that ick is not stuck in you anymore. And so you can talk about it because you're no longer consumed by that ick. That's
Yeah.
how I see it. And so it's easy to talk about this stuff because you're free of all the emotional, like the repressed emotional um, ugliness or the resentment. And I'm not going to say that you're 100% free. That's probably not an
Yeah.
accurate statement, but you're leaps and bounds and miles beyond where you were in the past. And it's astonishing to hear you articulate, and it's incredible to hear that you can be able to talk about this very difficult thing that happened in a way that you couldn't through formal therapy for 4 years. I mean, that's pretty powerful. That's pretty potent. So, what would you say to somebody that is considering this path? And if you could kind of recount on how did you get prepared and what allowed you to be ready for this process? What allowed you to say, okay, 4 years of therapy didn't work, but I'm going to try this. What got you there?
To be honest, it was, I think, a mixture of like that for example, my relationship with Gersai, like I love him so much. And I just realized how much hurt I was doing to the people I loved the most by not healing myself. So I think for me, it wasn't that I did it for him, but necessarily that I did it for myself so that I could be a better person for the people I love, so that it didn't hurt the people I love. And so that it could just, to a certain extent, like release me. So for me, I think that was just a big thing that I just realized how much I was hurting the people around me. So I was just hurting.
More
Sorry.
specifically, more to the point is what had you decide that, okay, here's this substance, here's this MDMA. Okay, what got you to the point where, yes, I'm willing to give this a try. I'm willing to take this substance and pair it with therapeutic modalities. What got you to the point where, yes, I'm willing to try this unconventional approach? What got you there?
I think this more spiritual side of it was what got me, because I feel like at first I was a little bit more on the nervous side to try MDMA. I was kind of like, no, like I'm not a person that's kind of done this stuff before or do it or do any types of what you want to call like recreational drugs or anything like that. So for me, it was just a really big, obviously when you hear like stories and stuff like that of people using it like for parties and stuff like that, it has a certain connotation toward it, about it. So then I think when I was doing my research, when I was looking at how spiritual it can be and how you can use it in a spiritual side to like release you of this, that's what really like did it for me. Because I remember I saw a lot of the videos and I did a lot of the research of like the benefits of it. So I think for me that was it. And also I can't lie, I've got to say, like doing 4 years of therapy was like, okay, if that didn't help, obviously there's something else that I need. Or at least for me. I was like, that's not doing it. I've tried this route. I do want to get better. If this is the route I have to take, I'm all for it to be able to better myself.
Yeah. So
Those
the videos that you saw, were they ones that I sent you, or those ones that you found on your own?
I was thinking about, you sent me one about like I think the military like being used for like soldiers with PTSD. But I
Yeah.
think when I clicked on that it gave other suggestions and then I
Yeah.
was
You
watching
just
those.
you found the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say to somebody that's kind of dealing with a similar experience for you, or that you have, somebody that is, the traditional routes aren't working, they're blocked, but possibly afraid, or not, they're not yet educated enough to trust this path. What is your message to them?
You know, it's so crazy that you say that because I have my, I think, I don't know if I've mentioned her to you before, but she is currently on Lexapro. And she's on all these anxiety medications. And I remember when you told me a story about how this lady that you worked with had been on Lexapro for like 20 something years and finally was able to like go without it. I remember she came up in my mind immediately because she has been struggling a lot with anxiety attacks, I would say over the past 3 years. It kind of came out of nowhere. I'm not sure if there's like obviously something deeper that happened that I'm not really sure about or that she doesn't feel comfortable speaking on yet, because it did seem like for her, it popped out of nowhere, like these anxiety attacks, these panic attacks all the time. So I want to say something happened, but obviously it's not something that she's felt comfortable to share with me yet. But I remember I had lunch with her and I was like, you know what? I really feel like you would benefit. I told her a lot about my experience. I explained to her the entire process. I explained to her, you know, what I went through in this guided session. And I told her, I was like, I would highly, highly, highly think this is something that you should look into. I was like, it's something that tremendously helped me. And it really feel like it this is a big like pivot point in my life, and I would want you to feel the same like clarity that I feel now. So I remember I told her that because she is a very much a person that she does not like touch any of those things, like absolutely not, like ever, 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 you know, she's very, 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 very against it. And I explained to her it's not a feeling that you're out of control. Like you're not going to be not in control of your body. You're going to feel the safest you probably I feel like ever felt. And it's not, I'm like, obviously if you're using it for the way I told her a lot. I was like, it depends on the way that you use it. If you're going to use it as a party thing, then of course that's going to have that negative connotation. It's going to do all those things. But if you're using it to better yourself, I'm like, I think it's an amazing thing that you need to look into, because that's the one thing that you had concerns about. But I would say that it's just truly just your intention on it, what you're going to be using it for and what you're looking for. And I remember I was very clear with you. I feel like told her I was like, you know, I want to say that I want to help you with your anxiety and your panic attacks, but at the end of the day, I don't know the root of your problem. And I told her, I'm like, I think you do need to find to a certain extent the root of your problem so that you can know and see what you're seeking for to get out of this. Because I was like, you think you need to have like a visual of what your goal in this would be.
As you're telling me the story of this woman, I am reminded of a client. This just happened very recently, and this is a coaching client, and we haven't talked about medicine work at all. And we started work. We worked on and off for many, many years, and we started working together. And 2 weeks after we started working together, her husband served her with divorce papers. And of course, that's a very difficult process. Without going through a huge story, we were doing a meditation right before our coaching session, and I just asked her to feel her heart. What does it feel like there? Is it alive? Is it numb? And she said that she began tearing up because she's numb. And she's numb, and she said, I don't like crying. I don't like sadness. I avoid sadness at all costs. And then she said, I think what's behind that, she said, when I was 30 years old, she's now 60. She says, when I was 30 years old, my brother died in a car accident. And I remember crying on the couch next to my dad, and my dad scolded me for crying. He says, you're done. Don't do that anymore. That's not appropriate here. Get over it. And so, and this woman that I tell you about, she has those same panic attacks. She has a panic attack, she has anxiety, she has depression because she was taught in that moment by a well-meaning father that gave her the wrong guidance and wrong advice, and she bought that. It's just like in the Four Agreements, he used his word in harmful ways, not intentionally, and she bought that belief. She bought that belief that it's not okay to cry and I should not cry. And so for the last 30 years, she's been a psychiatric patient because she doesn't think that it's okay for her to feel her emotions. So it doesn't have to be a huge traumatic sexual abuse or traumatic or violent kind of thing that somebody had to have these panic attacks. It can simply be you're told that your emotions are wrong and that your emotions don't have a place here. And then when you're told that your emotional system, that you're wrong, but yet your entire emotion system say, pay attention to me, listen to me, you're sad, you need to cry. And she says, no, 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 I can't allow that. I can't make that happen. Then you're out of integrity and you're fighting with yourself constantly. So it could be
Yes.
something as simple as that for your friend. And she may not even know. She may not know that she bought this lie for somebody down, early in her life. She may not even know that she has that belief, but it's still operating inside of her. And again, as always, if you need anything, if you find yourself struggling, confused, nervous system hijacked, reach out. Do not hesitate. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
All right. Beautiful. Great to see you again and thrilled that you're doing so well. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a
You
good one.
bet. Bye.